Hello, I'm your host Monet Almaraz, and I'm joined here with my guest, Kafton and Xavier Martinez. With medical marijuana being legal in 30 states and fully legal in 10, it is now considered a huge booming industry in 2019. In Arizona alone, last year the number of people with medical marijuana cards was just about 1,086,000 people. And on January 28, 2019, an additional extension on the medical marijuana card was proposed for 2 years instead of 1. As a teen in 2019, how might this impact our knowledge of marijuana and the industry? Could this be a potential career choice for us? And if so, how might we bring this into discussion with schools and parents? This is SPOTcast. Let's first start off with the question of how were you first exposed to hearing about marijuana industry? Was it from school to TV or etc.? Mai?
It was just everywhere around me. I grew up with a lot of people smoking marijuana and using it for medical purposes too. So I was exposed to it early.
Xavier?
I had seen it a lot in comedic type shows and movies, but I had never really sought out to it until I was flipping through and I found it on a news channel and they were talking about it.
What are your guys' overall opinions on the medical marijuana industry?
Well, I know that there are a lot of people who struggle with anxiety, depression, PTSD, and so I think it's really good that with the marijuana industry that those people have more chances to get better.
Yeah, I see it as any other type of medicine, any other type of pill, that it can be abused and used in the wrong way, but it also can be used in the right way.
So, Xavier, you had mentioned it being abused. So, what do you think about, should medical marijuana be sold in CVS and Walgreens where you can be accessed by the public, or should it stay with you having to have a medical marijuana card and going to dispensaries for that?
It definitely has that potential, has that chance to work its way to being sold in places like Walmart and CVS and Walgreens. Like any other thing, you had to start somewhere, and maybe we need to have it start with a special card that you need to get it, and maybe it'll work its way to where you can just get it as normal as the stuff in the pharmacy.
Why all of a sudden do you think we're hearing so much about the medical marijuana industry now, when medical marijuana has been something that has been around for a long time, but all of a sudden it's become such a huge thing?
It's had this whole image that it's more so of a bad thing because of people using it in a bad way, and so we've avoided talking about it when now we should have an open discussion of how it could be used for good.
Yeah, I agree. Marijuana has also just been around for a really long time, and people have been using marijuana, but now that it's legal, people are coming out to
it has more of public access, you could say. How do you think being surrounded by the topic of marijuana impacts today's youth? Mai?
I think it's good for the youth to be exposed to this, but I feel like since it's still a new topic and there are people who are against it and for it, I'm still kind of not sure what kind of perspective or view we're giving to the youth today.
Xavier?
Yeah, like Mai said, some people are gonna not be so sure about how they should deal with it. Some people are going to be completely against it, but then there are others who are all for exploring and all for trying to see if it can be used for good and for the benefit of others.
Do you think, going off of what you guys have been saying, do you think it'll impact us? It'll change how maybe teens are brought up or something like that? You see more teens using marijuana now that it's so how you mentioned, Xavier, in the media, it's literally everywhere? Or do you think it'll really not change?
I think maybe at first it'll start as this big boom where you see a lot of kids like us using it a lot and everywhere. But then I think eventually it'll just kind of simmer down and it'll have its time to just die out.
Mai?
I actually think that it's gonna start off really slow, but once people know more about it and people get more familiar with it, that it will eventually be like a bigger thing.
So colleges actually in the US are starting to offer many different degrees dealing with medical marijuana. Do you think courses in high school will start to offer that too, or do you think it'll just stay in colleges?
I think eventually it'll work its way down to high school level, like any other course that's first started out in college. It's made its way back down to a high school level to get them an introduction and a kind of a jump start to what to expect in college.
Mai?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. And then for our last question, how do you think a teen or someone who is interested in this field as a career should address this to their parents?
They should really address it almost as if they're going to the army, because mainly parents will see it as this very bad, very scary thing for them. But I think if they talk to them about it, then they can really try to find a compromise and see if they can get their parents to work their way to it.
I just say know your stuff, be confident, and really want to do this. And, show your parents or your grandparents that it's not a bad thing.
That's all the time we have for today. I would like to thank my guest, Maya Kafton.
Thank you for having me.
And Xavier Martinez.
It's been my pleasure.
For Spot 127, I'm your host, Monet Almaraz, and this is SPOTcast.